on Cars is kindly sponsored by Car Vertical, the only car history checking service you'll need, which references more than 20 databases globally to make sure you don't buy a car with a hidden past. For a special discount on the service, please use the link in the description down below. And now, today's feature presentation. Hello everybody. This week I've been living with the Lamborghini Huracan Evo rear-wheel drive coupe. It has been an eventful week, and I've managed to get quite a bit done in this car because Lamborghini UK have been very kind to me and let me take it for 8 days. Managed to get a sneaky extra one in because of the bank holiday, and let me take it all the way up to Scotland. You may think that this is not particularly unusual, however, with a lot of the really high-end manufacturers, it's not that normal to get a car for anything more than about 3 or 4 days, and typically these do also come with a mileage limitation. So I'm very grateful that Lamborghini trusted me enough to have the car for so long and put so many miles on it. That meant that I've been able to give it a really pretty thorough appraisal and use it in more or less every single conceivable scenario. On 2 occasions I've done about 500 miles a day, including today, and I've managed to take it to the shops. I've driven it around some of the most beautiful roads in the country, and I've been able to pretty definitively work out what I think of the car. I'm filming this as a partner piece to my review, which if you haven't seen already, I would recommend you go and watch first because I'll be talking about a lot of what I said in that film. If you have watched said review, you probably think that I've got a reasonably negative opinion of it. So I have to ask myself, why is it that after having driven it for 460 miles already on the motorway, which is, by the way, the worst possible place to be in this car, was I desperate just to have one last go? I figured that I might bring you all along for the ride because it's a beautiful evening and we haven't had one of those in quite a while, and it's a good chance to talk about something really quite close to, I think, many of our hearts. That is the nature of the supercar. I think we are at a real tipping point with regards to the motor car in general. Not just the move towards electrification, but the move towards the car as something you simply dial up, like a pizza. You need a car, well, you phone it, it arrives, it takes you where you want to go, and that's about it. I think it's very, very likely that some of us may live to see that future realised. And so, are we about to become extinct, and is that a bad thing? Well, I'll be honest with you, having now done quite a few miles this week, I think there are a lot of people for whom the self-driving car simply cannot come fast enough. Whether it's the fact a lot of people haven't done much driving in the last year, or I just haven't noticed how bad they were before, the standards on the roads today are absolutely abysmal. Despite the fact that I've been driving around in what is a matte white spaceship that makes an awful lot of noise, you'd think you'd be pretty visible, but no, people have been doing all sorts of stupid stuff, and I swear the fact I'm going to be able to return this car to Lamborghini in broadly the same shape they gave it to me is more or less miraculous. There are a lot of cars out there for which I can say they really don't serve much of a need, particularly the sort of big, luxurious, very powerful SUV type things. Sure, they have a purpose on occasion, but for the majority of people, they are simply a fashion accessory. They are a Chihuahua in a handbag. They are a Balenciaga hoodie. They're just something to tell everyone else you're a bit better than them. However, there are also plenty of reasons why you would legitimately need a very large car, right? Not necessarily a powerful one, but the SUV does have its place, particularly around here where a lot of people I know can be cut off by errant rivers. Snow is on occasion a concern, and I do have people that I know who live on actually islands which do get cut off twice a day by the sea. So for those, they do need something that is really off-road capable. However, I cannot make any such excuse for the supercar. It is more or less by design impractical, and it's not really even that fast. Okay, in numbers terms, maybe they're pretty quick, but I think all of us more or less know that a supercar isn't really quicker than anything else. On a road like this, a hot hatch will happily keep up with a reasonably well-driven car like this. I know this is very true because on my visit up to Scotland, I was driving a road I know reasonably well, and I was being followed by a man who knows the road very well in a Toyota GR Yaris. I could not get away from him at all. Now granted, we weren't racing, I wasn't really trying, we were just having a bit of fun. But the point is, if all you're interested in is getting from A to B quickest, It comes down really to how well you know the road and how little you care about your license. These are certainly not practical cars, and in fact the Lamborghini perhaps typifies more than anything else the supercar, and that's why I've decided to take this car out and use it as the backdrop for today's video. There is basically no storage space in this car. I took myself and my girlfriend up to Scotland and we had stuff in every single place that we could find in the car, and yet still I had to leave some things at home because there just wasn't enough room. Even compared to a Ferrari or a McLaren, this thing is absolutely terrible for storage. It's an awful GT car. I mean, really, truly terrible. But did you expect it to be any different? Actually, I did. I kind of hoped that it would be pretty decent because both Ferrari and McLaren make cars which have wonderful dual personalities. They can be nice, quiet, refined and comfortable when you want them to be, and at the press of a button they can be loud, raucous, shouty and quick and darty with the best of them. The Lamborghini, not so much. In fact, I would say, if anything, this is probably the car that most accurately delivers what people think the supercar experience is going to be. Loud, low, brash, in your face, very wide, very aggressive, and very, very dramatic. People love this car. Everybody knows it's a Lamborghini. It takes 2 seconds, they look at it and go, Lamborghini. Kids love it, they go mad for it. People even quite like the stripe, although I didn't get to tell many of them how much it was. £21,000, in case you were wondering. Yeah, no, I'm not joking. It's 21.5 grand for that stripe. There was one moment which I think really triggered the genesis of this video. I was doing some filming with my friend up in Scotland, George, and we were going through Dundee. Not the finest city in the entire world, but it does have some very nice things, including some very nice places to eat. And as we were driving through town, it was passed by a van for a food bank. And he got given the most filthy look on earth, and he felt very, very bad because there he was driving through town in a £250,000 car, and there's a chap there delivering tins of beans to people who can't even afford to eat. Even I felt really bad when he told me that, and I thought, geez, that's... Okay, look, I haven't spent £250,000 on this car. It's not my car. I mean, how's the guy to know that? But even still, you do feel very bad about the excess of it, the showiness. However, there is something to be said for a car like this as a force for good. No, it won't feed the hungry, but there are other ways that we can do that, and I am going to be looking into something like that because this incident has stuck with me. But I think if you buy a car like this, first off, on the most basic level, you really are helping people. If you go and spend £30,000 or £40,000 on a Toyota or a VW, you've probably largely fed a whole bunch of robots. However, you buy something like this and you really have kept people in a job. I'm going to the Morgan factory soon. I've organised a little tour for fans of the channel. If you want to come along, check the details in the community page. It may be booked up by the time this goes out though. And having done that factory tour now, I can assure you that anybody who's spent £100,000 on a Morgan has put money directly into the pockets of, I'd say, at least 50 people. You go through the Morgan factory and there isn't one single part of that car that hasn't really been touched by human hands. The engines are dressed by a person, his name is Rich. The seats are done by a person, his name is Will. The trim, everything, all done by real men and women. This is a very old school way of making cars, and that's generally true for all of the high-end stuff. Even Porsche to some extent still involve a lot of manual processes in the construction of the 911. Not so sure about their other cars, and it's been a while since I've done a Porsche factory tour, but it's a very, very hands-on thing. A lot of people there, skilled labourers making a product. And if these factories all closed, these people would be out of a job. Simple as. It'd be more people down at the food bank. This car is also, incidentally, when you're on it, rather fun. In fact, it almost exclusively makes sense when you're going pretty briskly. Odd really, because I know people would have this down really as a poser's car and not one for real driving enthusiasts, but actually I think driving fans would get something out of this car, particularly in rear-wheel drive guys, because it gives you back a little bit of that, maybe not fear, but respect that you need to have for these big old beasties, or, well, this car's ancestors anyway. It's ludicrously capable, very easy to drive this, and not really the car for me. I tend to prefer my supercars a little bit more analog, but then you don't have to buy a new supercar. You can buy an old supercar, and cars like this really for many people are a direct connection to the past. They are a source of adoration, admiration and excitement, and just driving this car about, it really is, I know this is going to sound absolutely mad and daft and silly, it's one of the most selfless things that you can do. Now, granted, with great power comes great responsibility, and I think you need to be very sensible when you're going to enjoy a car like this. You know, make sure you're on the right road at the right time, and being wary of your other road users. I don't like people driving through the middle of town, making all sorts of racket, speeding past women and children and dogs and everything. That's just silly, and these are the people that give car users and car enthusiasts a bad name. Unfortunately, Joe Public can't really differentiate between louts and petrol heads. Sometimes I'm not sure we can either, but that's a separate issue. When it's done right though, the car is something that should just make people's day. Something like this as well, it's so mad, it's so crazy. I know so many people that I've shown this car, I've taken them out in it and stuff like that, and they've gone, oh, it's really cool, but yeah, if I had the money, I just couldn't do it. And even people I've shown that have got the money, they've looked at it and gone, yeah, no, I couldn't really. And that's perfect. Of course, it should always be like that. It shouldn't be a car that just everyone goes out and buys, otherwise it'd be an RS4. It wouldn't be that special. It should be a rare thing. I've done 1,434 miles this week, and I've seen one other Lamborghini. Unsurprisingly, it was an Urus. I haven't driven one of those yet. I think I should. Should I drive an Urus? Should I see what it's all about? I've driven the Cayenne, I've driven the Bentayga, I've driven the Audi SQ7, so I've driven some of its stablemates, but I've not yet driven Urus. I do really want to try a modern Lamborghini V12 though. I want to get behind the wheel of an Aventador and see if that really delivers a dramatically different experience to this. But there is something just sensational. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night now, the sun is out, it's just the right temperature, it's 17 degrees, the road is still warm, it's quiet, I've got the car in street mode so I'm not making too much racket. This is where this car makes sense. It really does. It's absolute bliss. I'm not even going that quickly. I don't need to. This thing is just absolutely filled with drama. Yeah, sure, it's got issues. It's got a laundry list of issues. Many things I don't like about it. Again, if you want to know more about that, watch the review. Interior materials, suspension modes being all wrong actually. No individual setting, all sorts of stuff, loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of problems with this car. But when it's in its element, oh, it's wonderful. Even the traffic lights let you through. How good is that? Cars like this really are the reason why I'm out at 8:45 at night, having already driven 500 miles in a day, working away still, and when I get back home I'm going to be working again. I'm going to be downloading footage, doing editing, all that sort of stuff. Today will have been a sort of 14-15 hour day for me, and I'm perfectly happy with that because I want something like this. It motivates me, it gives me desire. Yes, I have just sold my own Lamborghini because unfortunately, as much as I kind of wanted to keep it, there was just a few too many things wrong with it, so it wasn't going to work out, and that's a shame. Here in the UK, by 2030, only 9 years away, we allegedly are going to ban the sale of all petrol and diesel engined vehicles. The original idea was for anything that wasn't a hybrid to be banned, but then HM government made the frankly bizarre decision to say no, actually no, even hybrids are not going to be allowed. Everything has to be electric. Personally, I just can't see that happening. I hope somebody sees sense somewhere, or some solutions present themselves and we find a way of being able to get along. And as a petrol head, I do see things from both sides. You know, there are an awful lot of cars I've got no issue whatsoever replacing with EVs, particularly in places like London where we do have some real serious issues with pollution and things like that. We need to solve those. We cannot simply go on ignoring those. The days of being able to just build whatever you want and burn as much fuel as you like and have a car chuck out all sorts of unpleasant things are long gone. Sadly, the generation before me had an awful lot of fun, and actually in some ways we're still very privileged, because if I want, I can go and hop in a 1970s car and drive it about reasonably scot-free. That's absolutely fine. And the truth is that so few of these things are on the road anymore, I don't think ultimately it makes that much of a difference. The biggest philosophical issue I think presented at the moment is the fact that with an EV, it only actually starts to make environmental sense once you've put a certain number of miles on it. But in actual fact, people are doing fewer and fewer miles these days, and I think that's going to change dramatically as well. With a lot of people now working from home, the car is going to be something you just use to pop to the shops and for the occasional bit of leisure. So in actual fact, the EV is probably going to be an even harder sell going forward than it has been previously. That and the fact that a few announcements recently have meant that it's really not any cheaper to run an electric car than anything else you might care to mention. There's a big old bunny. That'd be bad, wouldn't it? Sneak out for one last video and I have to return the Lamborghini with Thumper hanging out the front. That wouldn't go down well, I don't think. This car has also, yes, it's frustrated me greatly. It's given me quite a bit of back pain, but it has also made me feel like an absolute rock star. I mean, really, seriously, it's probably the number plates as much as anything else, but driving around a white Lamborghini with a £20,000 Italian stripe on it and Italian number plates, I feel amazing. Absolutely brilliant. Few other cars I've ever driven come close to the sheer presence of something like this. And it's quite amazing as well, and it's actually quite a compact car when you look at it. Cars like this, I think, can motivate people to want to do better, aspire to bigger things. Is it bad to have rewards out there for hard work and success? I don't think it is. I think it's very important to remind people that there are also plenty of other ways to have a lot of fun without spending this kind of money, something I feel very passionate about on the channel. But I also do love this kind of car from time to time. They are wonderful things, and I desperately, really do want a supercar of my own. There's just nothing else quite like them. What exactly is a supercar, of course, is different to different people, but for me, the 550 doesn't qualify. It's a GT car, a very good one and something still very exotic, but supercar, it is not. So what exactly takes the place of the guard on my driveway, I don't yet know. There's a few options I'm looking into, and as soon as I know, you'll know. But for now, while we can, although this may not be a perfect car, I am going to enjoy every single minute that I can with it. And if you ever get the chance, I urge you, do it. Because as soon as they tell you you can't anymore, you'll regret it. So what do you all think? I suspect I know, because, you know, you're my audience. This is not Mumsnet here. Supercars, worthwhile, or just silly? There are other cars out there, of course, which are just as fast as this, much nicer inside than this, much cheaper, but they're just not the same, are they? I love my M3, for example, but never made me feel like this. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. See you for the next one. I hope you've enjoyed today's little bonus video. Bye-bye.